haven't heard that one in a while.
Once there was this girl who got into an accident, and I don't really remember any of the lyrics to that song. I just remember the whoa.
All right, I'm closing my Facebook down. I'm hit the record button on my end, and there we go.
I see.
We're off. We're live, correct?
We are live, and I am trying to do the final shares here.
Hello, Facebook.
Well, you may not see him with a walrus. Final shares here.
Oh, I heard it.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm going to share it to a group.
Can you stream on Facebook and YouTube at the same time?
Not through this. Like, there's other ways to do it. We never had anybody watching on YouTube, so I never really worried about it. All right, so I shared it to those two groups. And let's see here. I'm going to... I just sent you the link.
I'm not going to use the Facebook while.
Okay.
No need to slow it down. I may. I'll try. I'll try to pull it up from my phone. Then I get all distracted when I'm like looking at the video and it's like behind, you know?
All right, so I officially started the watch party, I guess. All right. Are you the admin that approved it?
Say what? Say what?
I said, are you the admin that approved it in the Free Market Environmentalism and Green Agorism group?
I could be. I did not. Doesn't need approval.
I mean, all of my stuff says somebody approves it. So there's that.
He's pretty quick on the draw with that one.
So, all right. Welcome, everyone, to Free Markets Green Earth. This is episode number 44. Depopulation. You in, more in gates are.
Dun, dun, dun.
I am Nicky P. Here, as always, with Ben, the Liberty Hippie. How we doing there, Ben?
What's up, Nicky? I'm doing well myself. How you doing?
Well, I think I would be doing better if I didn't continue hearing more and more people that want to depopulate the earth. That would be something spectacular. Unfortunately, that is not the world we live in. So this Earth Day, I saw a video, or saw that I just recently saw it, that this whole thing streamed on Earth Day.
This came out on Earth Day.
Yes, this came out on Earth Day. Michael Moore, the director, a few other people. I think what's his name was there actually.
Jeff Gibb or whatever.
Well, Jeff Gibb's the director, and he was there. But
Bill.
They were saying, "Hey, come watch our movie," because we all care about Earth. And I think the first thing I saw about this was an article about Michael Moore is turning his back on the environmentalist left. And I'm like, there's literally no way that's possible, aside from, the fact that, much like me, he is a fat guy. It would be difficult to turn your back on anyone. It takes like a lot of walking that we don't want to do. But I said, so like, okay, I want to learn more about this. So I went, and lo and behold, you can actually watch the documentary for free on YouTube. Because they really want to disseminate this. I'm sure a lot of people do. It seems to be.
Sure.
I keep seeing the word depopulation lately.
Oh, it's the new thing, man.
Well, it was always a thing.
Yeah,
I think
it's getting attention. It's getting attention now.
It is. It opens up talking about the Silent Spring.
My favorite.
So, for those who aren't aware, the movie kind of does exactly what the article says in one sense, where it actually does turn its back on the left. it just doubles
Sort
down.
of, sort of did. I mean, like, I feel like it.
I'm bearing the lead on this one. So I feel very mixed about the documentary. It's not like the last one we watched. I'm like, oh my god, it was so good.
Yeah.
The thing with this one is, it actually is a fantastic, just absolutely fantastic slice and dice of absolutely everything that's wrong with the modern environmental movement.
Yeah.
And
That,
it's better because it's somebody from that. Like, he's hardcore.
mm-hmm. It is, and that's what like just confused me so much in the beginning. Like, just the way it was put together, and because I didn't know the article, you just like sent me this video to watch, and I'm like, okay, and I see Michael Moore, and I'm like, oh, great, it's going to be something that is just absolutely atrocious that I'm just gonna want to shoot myself in the face later.
2 minutes in of
But
watching it myself, I'm like, dude, I don't know that I can do this. Like,
well, but it was interesting though. It wasn't what I expected necessarily. Like, once it got rolling a little bit, like I was expecting more of that sort of like, I don't know. I mean, I guess it is what you expect out of Michael Moore, but at the same time, like, it was interesting to see that he did kind of turn his back, I guess. And now I don't think it's necessarily a turning of the back so much as like
I'm going to point out, just to be
taking
clear,
it one step further, right?
Michael
Like,
Moore, this is not a Michael Moore movie. What this is Michael Moore Presents, which is a thing that they've
okay,
been doing a lot, kind of like a lot of newer comedians will have like an older comedian slap their name on it and say, like, Tina Fey presents, or Dane Cook presents, and like it's that person's thing, but they're trying to ride the clout of, like, basically they're an executive producer and they put
it's
their
just
name
dick
on it.
riding. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's just they're trying to mooch. And by all means, if Michael Moore can sell his name to a documentarian to get it promoted, then by all means, go make your paper. Which is kind of funny given what they cover a lot of in this movie, but
Yeah, it is.
we'll get there.
Makes it even more amusing.
But yeah, I just want to be clear about that, because I kind of went in this, like, everyone talked about it as if it was a Michael Moore documentary, and it's not.
That's what I expected. He was like in the back room or something. I figured he had something to do with it, but apparently not.
It does not seem like it. I mean, it seems like this was a heart project from this Jeff Biggs guy.
Yeah.
But continue. I'm sorry to jump in. It just seemed like
No.
I should mention that before we get too deep in things.
Yeah. It just, I don't know. I think that's part of it, right? Like, that it was this sort of, it's the way the left works now, sort of, right? In that, like, you have the AOCs and the Bernies and like the real like socialist left. And I think you'd probably have some people saying that like they've turned their back on, you know, whatever it is, liberalism, or, you know, I'm sure you have people saying that. And like, really, it's taking it one step further. And I think that's what they did with this video, is that like they recognize the problems that alternative energy
I mean, dude, so much of this
put out.
could have been stuff that you and me parrot, like,
Oh, and that was it. Like,
so
and that
much
was,
of it.
and that was what was wild about this. Like, I'm watching this and I'm like, yes, exactly. Good point. Like, like, tell me more. Cause like, I knew that, like, and then
Well,
and that's why I was so confused. Like, I was just so
it's so
confused.
good narratively, because he like kind of like the first main story he's talking about, like, going through environmentalism. He's talking about going to um a festival, it's a
Oh
music
God.
festival
I love,
for
you know what?
solar energy, and like he goes there, and like it's a cloudy day, the rain
Mhm.
starts, and so they obviously you can't run an entire sound system for a band at a
Mhm.
festival off of the energy from solar panels. So they've got the biodiesel thing in the back, which he's a
Yeah,
little
of
sad about,
course.
but it's biodiesel. He's just learning how wrong he was about things. And then he's talking to the guy running it. He's like, yeah, but that doesn't even give it enough. I mean, this is where we tap into the
Mhm.
generator, and we're actually pulling power from the grid. It's usually designed to put power back on the grid, but So even this one music festival, they can't make it through a day of performances without having to pull from the grid, because as you know, the technology just isn't there.
It is, but see, that's the thing. I think like, and we'll get to that eventually, I guess. But like, it is there. I think the technology and stuff, it is there. It needs to be developed further. Um, you know,
Well,
but
I guess
where we
here would be
are,
here's his
it's not
thing.
going to be able to be developed
As
further,
he put
right?
it, it was a little bit later on. They're talking to the guy. I think he worked for the feds. He's like, yeah. Then so if we had this block, it'll power 10 homes for a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's like, now that's because they run at about 8% efficiency. Now, if you've got a Land Rover on Mars, yeah, those things run about
Uh-huh.
95% efficiency, but they cost about $1 billion fucking dollars for a square. I think it was like $1 million for a square inch of the
Yeah. It
solar.
was something absurd like that. Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
and that's what I mean. Like, and with in time, I think those things will trickle down. I think they would trickle down faster. I think you'd have more R&D happening at a quicker rate if, you didn't have some of the subsidization going on, if you weren't
I don't disagree with that.
allowing,
But I look at it as you can't force it. It's going to happen
no,
when
you
it's
can't.
ready to happen.
Hmm. And I think it would, I don't know. I don't know if it would have happened already or would be happening, but I do think there would be enough push from some people to see some of it. I think like I'd be happy to put some solar panels on my roof or throw a turbine out there or do something. But at the same time, when you look at the other costs, like what are all the costs associated with a battery, right?
Well,
What are all those, everything builds up like, and okay, so I generate enough electricity to pay it back in 20 years. Well, it needs replacing every 18 years. So I'm really like, all those things considered, I'm not willing to do it,
well,
you know?
and you only make enough to pay it back if it's subsidized by the government to the tune of a half of its build,
Right.
things of that nature, and I will give the guy a hand. Like I mean, he was ruthless. Like
Oh, dude.
he
No.
no stone unturned. Literally every single one
He
of the
murdered
major
Bill
ones.
McKibben. Like, I love that. I love that. Like, I hate Bill McKibben,
Like
and
I know the
like,
guy. I before this, I knew the guy to look at him, and I don't exactly know why I know him.
who's that? The
McKibben.
director or McKibben? Okay.
But I mean, I get the impression he's a big guy in that movement.
Hmm.
Probably amongst certain circles, and you get the impression, like, I mean, that dude was flat out lying in some of his like stuff. There was the one where she's specifically asking him about who funds him,
Who are your
and like,
donors?
but you mean not like the Rockefellers or anything? It's like, oh, well, doing like, well, since you ask, I mean, they are one of the biggest, and
They've always been our great ally. Mhm.
exactly, you know.
Mhm. I'm sure they are.
So he attacks it from the fact is like, no matter how good we want the technology to be, it's just fucking not. And like,
Yeah.
be it the materials that go into making it are damaging, be
Hmm.
it the what it does
Well,
governmentally, it's like it requires huge subsidization to even make it look like it's a good thing. He looks at the ways in which the politicians get in bed with governments, and
yeah.
like when he was, I think it was Brazil, he's going through, and like the sugarcane fields, how they've removed indigenous people out of
Hmm.
there for fucking subsidies. Like, it's
Yeah.
all for biomass.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not personally against biomass. That was one of the big things he says. Like when you get down to it, the only one of them that actually functions is biomass. That's the only one that actually works. And they have to fill that with so much basically burning off forests and stuff like
Hmm.
that.
It's what, I don't know. It's just what it's wild to watch. It's wild to see. It's wild to look at and see how much that, like, I guess we're all just duped, right? We're all just kind of like, what things actually mean. We talked about this before with like food definitions and what does cage free mean and what does organic mean, and like this just assault on vocabulary, you know, and like
Well, and he was
what.
even talking to people at the Sierra Club who are
Mhm.
kind of like, I'm not prepared to give a statement on that because they know what they're doing. They know who's funding it, and they understand that they're
I
not
don't
going to
know.
get their funding to do what they need to do if they don't kind of. I guess it's like, well, we can justify it. It's a step in the right direction, kind of thing. And I don't entirely disagree with that.
See,
I kind of think biochar might be better than some other, or not biochar, but
biomass.
biomass might be better than some other ways of doing it. Certainly more than wasting it on fucking giant
Well,
towers. And
after this Corona thing, we'll have tons of bodies to put in there. So,
I mean, maybe China's going to go completely self-sufficient because of all the
yeah,
people they've killed.
just put them in. No, like I honestly like it has a place, right? And there's a point to it. And like I don't know, some of the Sierra people like I can see where if you're in a position in a company, and your company doesn't have a concrete position on that particular topic, you know, you just the best thing to do is just keep your mouth shut. I don't know. I can't remember. Right. I mean, I think Hillary Clinton taught us all that, right? Like, I can't say, don't remember. I think that's just the best way to go, right? Like you
Yeah.
can't get pinned down, and it's maybe it's because they're being deceptive. Maybe it's because like honestly they just aren't sure. That was one of the things there that I was kind of like, dude, just back off a little bit. Like I don't know who these people are. They're just
So I think we're actually getting a little bit ahead of ourselves because I don't think we actually ever even gave the name of the documentary.
It's probably better that way.
Well, it's almost
No, it's
deceptive. Like Michael Moore presents Planet of the Humans, directed by Jeff Gibb.
and honestly, like
What is that first line? Because I think even you, like that first line where he opens it up, you had to message me back like, what the fuck is this?
I don't remember, but I do. Yeah, it was because it was like the first like 2 minutes I think was just a montage of like how long do you think humanity has to live? And like what kind of absurd question is that? Who has any clue? You don't have. No one has any inclination as to how long humans have to live, whether it's the rapture or an asteroid or it's in perpetuity. We have figured out and we are able to survive. There's no way. You can't tell. Like that question is absolutely asinine, and to suggest that people have the information and the knowledge to make like an educated guess even is just absurd.
But you know what?
It just made me angry.
He got
Sorry.
the answer he wanted. He got a couple of them.
He did. Some
10
people are
years,
like, a million years, forever.
infinite.
10 years. 10 years. It's all we have is 10 years.
Probably 15,
Oh
maybe.
God,
I don't see it
dude.
much longer
Like,
than that. Or the dude that's like, yeah, man, we might find another planet that we can move to and fuck that one up too.
yes, yes, yes. Because
He got
we're
what
yeah.
he got the polls he wanted. He got to see people just saying, no, we're awful, we're evil, we're destructive.
Mhm.
And but the movie Planet of the Humans, it's not wrong. Like we
No,
in the sense
it's
that
not.
we have made this planet ours. I think we leave places for other people, and I also think that we are the same as animals in a lot of ways. He even points that out. Like one of the things that conclusions he comes to is that the reason we do stuff is because human beings are afraid of our own mortality, and we don't like to think of the fact that we're animals. And so I think his position, we like to be above them. We like to be more than that, and so we create these cultures that make us more than that, but they're just a way to shield our eyes to our own mortality, which
So,
seems interesting.
so a couple things. I just when you started talking about that, I recall like what it was really. I think that triggered me in the very beginning, and it was there was a guy talking, and he was talking about how humans and animals and like as a species is a species like able to recognize when their time is up because they're causing too much damage and step aside.
Yes.
And that's what it was. That's what it was. It was like the
That's what I was
first thing. I
waiting
was
on.
like, are you like,
I knew
where
you'd
are
get
you?
there.
Oh, you really didn't just do that. Like, I mean, but then yeah, and that guy like talking like, okay, so humans can think and actually build culture, whereas like, animals, they might be building culture, but it's just it's not even, can't even compare the two. I mean, like it's totally different things.
Well, unless you believe that one weird conspiracy I heard that whales and dolphins are aliens that are put here to monitor human beings until we're ready to ascend and join the other aliens in the galactic empire. But they've
Then
been
why are
here.
they getting in my tuna can?
But they've been here so long that they just went crazy. Human beings just haven't done what we're supposed to.
We're just too stupid.
Well, you got to remember because we're monkeys that were spliced with alien DNA.
Okay.
I obviously, folks, I don't know how much
All
stock
right.
I would ever put in this, but someone did say that's a fun story. I like the idea of it. I like whales and dolphins in the ocean going, I don't think the time's right. These guys are still stupid.
I mean, if I don't know. No, I won't take that one, but there's always room for some.
Tim
Some,
Finnegan says that would explain why dolphins are so horny.
I wasn't gonna go there, Tim, but
I
yeah,
was gonna
there's
go
lots
there.
of instances
I was
of
gonna make a joke about dolphins are the ones that are out there actually enjoying sex, so we could learn a lot from the dolphins.
that's what I've heard. Dolphins and pigs and I don't know.
So we focused a lot on like the positives of this movie, which, like I said, is the very very savage takedown it does of
So I think
the same shit we do.
yeah, and it rips them all apart, and it makes all the connections through the SEC, through like all the funding and stuff, and he's going through their just all of it. I mean, all of it, anything you can imagine, and he has it and presents it, and it's beautiful because the ties are so close, right? Like the oil industry is the same ones that run the alternative fuel energy, and like when you look at it, it's I buy a dishwasher and I plan on it breaking in 5 years. Like things are built to be broken, to be replaced, because that's how we do. um and I guarantee you that's the same thing with these alternative sources, right? Your
Um,
turbines that just fall apart, dude. They fall apart. Like the pictures they were showing, the videos they were showing of these old things just falling apart was
I mean,
priceless.
you could say that, but honestly, dude, I think the amount of wear and tear on those things for what they're actually expected to do
Hmm.
is just monstrous. Like I don't know how you could
Yeah.
expect those giant turbines to last like the like they need to.
No, and I mean, maybe they just can't, but at the same time, like they have to get replaced a little sooner. So what? I just sold another product, and we're doing all this, and and it creates jobs, right? And I don't know. I just
Yeah, I mean, I'm
I,
not
I don't
happy
know.
about any of this, and I'm sure they're doing what they can to make money. I'm not disputing
I don't
that,
know. Yeah.
but that's that whole thing that we just talked about, that main premise or main force that he uses. Eventually, he takes that and he gets to what his real premise is, and this is a bad thing, but I'm also very happy about it. And it's that his end goal is depopulation. No matter what, humans are always going to want to use more energy. And so the only way to
Mhm.
make us use less energy is just to have less of us.
Yeah.
You've got that. You've got Bill Gates wanting to add vaccine. He's so in love with vaccines because he wants to depopulate. The great enemy of the world is depopulation. And what's so frustrating to me is that I find a lot of scientists I've seen say depopulation is going to happen naturally, and
Yeah.
society, like population collapse is actually a thing we're concerned about because of the
It's
way our
happened. It's already like
what is
taking
happening.
place in places,
Like,
like there's already countries where this is happening. Like,
and that's the thing that really boggles my mind that they don't think about or that they don't ever bring up is the fact that Yeah, you know what population collapse happens when we do start depopulating, when we become wealthy. Every
Hmm.
wealthy nation on the planet, their population goes backwards because you don't have to have kids to survive. You don't
Right.
have to put them out there to prostitute them to make money. You don't have to have 15 of them so that maybe
In
four
case
will
four
survive.
dive, yeah.
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 So if you want to make the population shrink, you know what you do? You go and you help make places fabulously wealthy. You do everything you can to make that happen. Unfortunately, the end result of making energy more expensive, which this will inevitably do, is that it's going to make places poorer. Everywhere poorer.
So yeah, no, it does, and it won't help anybody. I don't know. I don't like it. It was one of those things where it really like when unless you will forcibly like make people not have children, the people that you are that will be having less children
Mm-hmm.
are the wealthy people, right? It's not going to be the poor people. It's not going to be the poor places in the world that are like, oh, they said we should have less children and we'll be better off. Like,
Well, if I've
no,
got
they're still
money,
about making that buck, right? They still have to survive.
people with money and culture wrap it up. They put condoms on. Like,
But well, so
I don't want my life goals being rerouted because of some fucking little, thing popping out of this lady.
little gremlin, yeah, no, I and that's it, right? Like, so the people that are listening are the people that are going to be able to come up with uh, different energy types, different places to get energy from, right? Different techniques, different methods, different systems. That's where it's going to come from. It's going to come from, you know, developed countries, developed nations, places where there's that sort of infrastructure already there, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's not to say that somebody from, Somalia can't do that, but in that current environment, in that current infrastructure, that's not going to happen, and they're not going to stop populating either, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unless you go and you forcibly make them stop having babies,
Well,
and you can
there's
do
a
that with a vaccine.
there's a few things that are real telling about it. Number one, he made it very clear he doesn't understand economics at all.
No.
There was a line in there where he's talking to a guy about bio biomass,
MS.
and he said the guy he's trying to say, well, I mean, I would like it so we can't burn any trees ever. Now, mind you, he opened up the movie talking about him moving into that log home he built himself off grid, and and heated with
Yeah.
fire. Okay, he heated his own place with fire, and then he says to the guy he's talking to says, well, I mean, I heat my home with fire all through the winter. Like, I don't know that I'm prepared to say we're not allowed to
Hmm.
burn trees. And he's like, yeah, but you don't burn them for energy, which outs him as being completely like, you don't understand what you're doing. Yes, that's energy. That's a type of
Yeah.
energy. Really,
Yeah.
not even a very efficient one at that. But but he doesn't understand what energy does. Energy is what keeps us from succumbing to the elements. That's why
Right.
we thrived the way we have, because we have the means to not to die because of the cold. Like that's what fuel means. That's what energy means. But in
Yeah.
his head, it's this abstract thing that's attached to cell phones and video games and shit like that. That's what he sees it as.
Right.
And
And
maybe
he,
here in affluent countries like us, it is. But in like countries that are less, that's a way to pump water out of a fucking well. It's a way to do a lot of shit that you might otherwise die in a desert. Like
yeah,
it was
that's
that.
that's what's going to be able to allow population to spread into places, right? So when we get 8 billion, 9 billion people, we can there's places for them to go, right? You can
Mhm.
make someplace like Siberia habitable. You can live there. That's because of energy. Like if you want to cram everybody into, I don't know, I forget where the line is. There's a line, one of
Mhm.
those longitudinal lines. If you want to cram everybody into that beltway, north south, like go for it. you're gonna have to, murder half of us, but that's cool.
And don't get me wrong, I don't even necessarily think that focusing on having a more sustainable population is a bad idea. But at the same time, I also think that the best way we've found to manage that is by technological innovation.
Right.
Like he's talking about how, oh, well, endless growth and endless, use of resource. And I'm like, yeah, but sure, we're using resources, but we've also gotten better about using resources and using less resources and everything because we don't want to waste shit.
Mm-hmm.
And like the science is in on that.
Well, and that's the thing. So like when you look at that, when you think about that, the idea that as resources go down, we've tended to use them more productively. I imagine that's been the same way since the very beginning, right? Whether it was between farming, right, and getting the most out of the soil, or all of it. I can almost guarantee you that's from the beginning. I can't think of anything. I don't know. I don't know. Do you
No, I mean
follow?
that's a natural trajectory. If you find how to use something, eventually you find how to use it better.
Well, it is, and I can think of examples like from present time, from current, last 100 years or so, like really from the Industrial Revolution kind of on. We see that. Um, has it been that way always? Like, what else can we think of that does that? And I can't think of any offhand right now, but maybe
Yeah.
tomorrow. Tomorrow I will.
So
My yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
no, you're good.
I don't know if I'm jumping the gun or not. We talked about depopulation, and he's like really adamantly against these alternative energy sources, right? Basically because they're really not doing anything, right? They're doing the same thing that fossil fuels are doing, right? They take fossil fuels to build, take fossil fuels to use. So
I was really excited that he pointed that one out. That well, at least in the interim, you're going to be using fossil fuels for the
yeah,
foreseeable future to make any of this shit you're talking about using.
and so and this is something like libertarians in general, I think, get slapped around for, right? Like, what's the alternative? What do you propose? And I don't think he really proposed anything other than like kill yourself. Like I don't think he like, did I miss something?
I mean, I don't think he specifically said kill yourself. He said let's kill off your
Okay,
grandkids.
kill your neighbor. Okay.
Let's preemptively kill off your grandchildren,
I got
and let's kill
a soldering iron for your balls.
let's kill off people in third world countries who
Mm-hmm.
will inevitably die.
I guess. That's what kind of like at the end I was kind of like, dude, like
Michael Moore
I don't know.
himself would probably actually show up with the gun to put it in your head. I mean, he's
Yeah, but I can
definitely
run.
got
I
the
can
red
run
flare.
faster than Michael Moore. So
Well, speak for yourself, asshole.
I
I may not. I may not.
I just like I don't know. Like it was very interesting. I think it's definitely worth a watch.
Well, I was actually really surprised because I thought I was gonna send this to you, and you're like, "Ah, fuck this noise. I don't have any need for this. Like, I'm not watching this stupid 2-hour movie."
It's
And
only an hour 40 minutes.
and I was genuinely surprised. Like, I watched the first 2 minutes. Like, yeah, he's not gonna watch this. Like, so I'm not gonna bother with it. Like, I got other shit I can do today.
I'll watch.
Well,
It
then I
was
talked to you, and you're like, I'm about halfway through. I'm like, oh shit. Like, I guess I'll catch back up.
yeah, throw it on like 2x and go do the dishes and
Well, and even
watch it.
more interesting to me, I think, with your response to it was that, like, you definitely gave me a more positive response for this, which its end game is depopulation, than you did the last documentary I watched. That was kind of on our team. Like, so I don't know, Ben. What are you hiding from us there?
Well, see, so I think what I because I think the last one was subtle and it was too subtle.
Yeah.
This one I think was like so in your face, like you cannot walk away from this and like accept what we've had, what we're living under. You can't walk away from this and say, "Hey, Al Gore, he's a great dude." Like
Oh, dude,
A plus, you
it
know,
threw
like
some mad shade at Al Gore. I love
oh, I
that.
loved it. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I
It
get
was good.
it.
But like, you know what I mean? And like I remember like Bill McKibben. I went to college up like northern New York and
Yeah.
I did like environmental studies and he was like a big name, like we had to read and everybody, you know, because he's over there in Vermont, Middlebury and stuff. And like I remember reading him and just like I hated it. I hated it. And I can't tell you why. And you know, probably not why, but like it gives me some satisfaction now to like look back 20 years later and be like, dude was a douchebag, man. Like, cool. I was all right. You know,
Yeah.
like it's one of those things. Like I like to see that just these big names kind of drawn out and thrown down and say, here you go. You know, here's where they are. Here's the line. They've, you know, are all over that. Now at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, what I really didn't care for was that there wasn't really an alternative or a solution or anything like that. And so I think it kind of
Well, and you know
it's
what that's about though, and this is probably the thing that I do love most about this is that it's saying the quiet part out loud. That thing where you and I are sitting here saying, "Look, this is what environmentalists are really after. It's not what
mhm,
they're saying they're after. This is it." And everything that we were saying there, like, yes, he just said, yeah, that's what we're after. That is, like, we are anti-human. Humans need to get off this rock. They need to step away. Their time is over.
yeah.
And I don't feel. I guess I feel vindicated and like I'm not an alarmist. This is genuinely
Mhm.
the way that these people feel.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that that comes out of like the far left, right? You know, like 'cause communism has such a good track record with human
Well,
rights, and here they are. Like the only way we can do it is less people. So
and he takes a good amount of time to just lay out why capitalism is bad
hmm
in
he
this movie.
does.
Now, mind you, you and I would sit and argue. Well, no, that everything you just said is a problem with cronyism in government.
Well, and that's it, right? Like that's what like watching. I was like, okay, yeah. And what's your point? Like that's not really what we're doing here. Like,
Literally everything you say keeps coming back to a politician, bro. I'm not sure, like
hmm
yeah, the company does what the company does, which is try to make money.
yeah,
And human beings should
yeah.
do what human beings do, which is try and live. So
It is. And
it's it's the politician that's making that lie in the middle that makes the one think they're doing for each other what they're doing.
yeah, yeah. Filthy politicians. I am curious. Do you think, given the system that we currently operate under, right?
Hmm.
The kind of cronyist system and the way that the wind and solar are just inextricably linked with um, the oil industries and everything there. Do you think we would eventually see them kind of pull away to the point where maybe you don't need as much petroleum or fossil fuel to make these alternative sources
What
viable?
the science is not there. Honestly, I don't think any of those like I think maybe a couple hundred years down the road they can find ways to make some of them valuable. But not necessarily the way they want to right now. Honestly, I think there's the older technologies that kind of probably like find better ways to do hydroelectric, honestly.
Yeah.
I think the
Yeah.
most stable power grid in America is the fucking, us Niagara Mohawk up in New York State
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
it just keeps pumping gallons of water.
That's what you do, that gravity thing.
Yeah.
Uh,
So there's some issues I have with that. Mostly I just like to know what any of that actually costs in the broad scheme of things. And there's so much market distortion in that on every
yeah.
side. What do fossil fuels really cost? We don't know because they're subsidized. We don't know what the other ones cost because they're subsidized. And the big game is that everyone's just shoveling money up to these fucking corporations right out of our hands. maybe we would choose differently if we had an idea. Maybe
Yeah.
even inefficient, crappy, you know, wind is better, but or maybe it's a lot cheaper, but we have no way of knowing that, and
Right.
that's the frustrating part.
And that's it, right? Like you have no idea. We have no idea. We have no idea. I think if you put a real price tag on some of these things, you
Well,
wouldn't see it, you know?
in the same vein, like if you did put a real price tag on food, perhaps it would
Yep.
fit in the equation a lot different than it does.
Even oil, if oil wasn't subsidized, you know, like would we be looking at some of these alternative things? Would we be trying to figure out different ways to harness energy, you know?
But for me, my big thing is that I want to keep the government money out of it, like
Right.
because that's that when they're picking winners and losers, that's when you waste money on these giant projects. That was some of the stuff that was really interesting to me that I actually wasn't totally aware of was the aftermath of some of these big projects that have been government funded.
Oh yeah.
Like that shit I was unaware of. And that's almost more damning. Like there was that one town. It was in New Mexico or something like that, or was it Nevada?
Yeah, so someplace out by the desert. Yeah. Yeah.
And like,
Holy crap, man. And to think like it's funny because I mean it was just I think that was what was so great about it was just him pointing out the hypocrisy in all of it, right? And like to see them like mowing down like 500-year-old yucca plants or taking down these Joshua trees so that
yeah.
we can put up mirrors and solar panels that are going to break in 20 years and just turn into nothing. Like the mirrors are broken on the ground, there's nothing there anymore, and
Hmm.
it's a wasteland. It's wild. That was
If nothing
wild.
else, like I'm glad it came from where it came from because maybe some people will actually see how duped they've been. Because I mean, that's the big thing is that he found himself feeling just duped. Like he'd been part of this movement for 20
Yeah.
some years, and at the end of the day, like he felt like he was just helping corporations to lie about what was actually going on. Most of the most of the projects for renewable energy, you find out are it always goes back to coal. No matter what, coal seems to be the only reliable way to make energy right now.
Yeah, it does. It really is. I mean, like, short of maybe nuclear, like, that's the only really reliable thing we have.
And that was gonna be my one last comment that I had on it. There was a decided lack of mention of that.
Hmm.
He mentioned it once or twice, but I think it would have been just blatantly obvious that he
I don't
couldn't
even.
not mention it.
Hmm.
But it was ignored a fucking ton.
Yeah,
Like
I
you're
don't
making
honestly. I don't remember him saying it at all.
it happened once or twice in passing when he was explaining the types of energy that some of the renewable programs were okay with.
Okay.
Um,
so, so he was crapping all over it anyway.
yeah, so like it was something that he couldn't necessarily leave it out, but
Hmm.
leaving it out of the landscape entirely in the documentary, I also thought was incredibly telling. He mentioned it again once in the beginning because of the disposal of radioactive material.
Right.
He mentioned it in the beginning on that tip too. So I think there was twice that I heard it mentioned, but
Okay.
like in the most don't pay attention to this thread kind of way possible.
Yeah.
Like enough that it was fucking conspicuously not there.
It was. It was totally missing. It was weird at the end. I was kind of like, really didn't say that at all. And I remember him talking about like I think when they were talking about it was an incineration plant maybe, and they were talking about the testing the snow or something, and it had like thorium and some other radioactive isotopes or so. I don't know.
Oh, when they were talking about that was the big thing. His big thing was he's very against biomass, the burning of biomass.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely like the main thrust. And what year I think we're talking about where he's talking about the plant that's
It was
near
in
a
the beginning.
school.
Yeah, it was in the beginning. It was after he got on with his weirdo scientist friend that showed him how solar panels are made with like the quartz and the coal, and like he brought out the
Yeah,
models. And but
doesn't seem
but
anything clean about this, huh?
no, 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 no.
Yeah.
But There's something I was gonna say. I forget now. I think it seemed useful, but um, I don't know.
Yeah. All in all, like I said, I definitely liked it. Like, I mean, I disagree with it, but I liked it for what it is. Like I said, I like that it did a thrashing that you and I aren't even capable of.
Yeah.
And like I said, it says the quiet part out loud, and I'm glad that they said it themselves. So it's not just me putting words in their mouths.
Yeah. Yeah. Is this with this red pill people? I'm confused on my pills. And I could see this like red pilling some, but it would like red pill you with a little yellow hammer and sickle logo on it, kind of thing. So like, is that still like a red pill? What color pill is that?
Well, so here,
Orange?
and this is the thing that I keep coming back to, is that I don't think most people want humans to die. I think that is still a small sect of people. But if you can tell enough people that what they're doing following the green initiative stuff is just not working or is bad, maybe we can get more people to focus on the actual problems and deal with the solutions because they're not willing to go to the other side. They're not willing to say, okay, well then just kill everybody.
Yeah.
Because I think that is a bridge too far for most people to go. Maybe I'm naive, but
No, I think it is. I think like that. It's I don't know, because I think suggesting that people use less is one thing. Talking about when a species needs to know its time is up is another thing. Like, and then you have to couple that with like seeing it all, witnessing it all. Like, what are these role models that are telling us how to behave? What are they doing? How are they acting? What are they using? Because that's how we all figure out what we should be doing, and what we is acceptable and what's not acceptable. We look at our peers at society, and that's where you get those cues from. So
mhm.
it's all built in, and I don't know. I'll be
So
hopefully not too many people take that cue.
there's enough of them already to be worrisome. But all right, yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, we could belabor it, man. We were talking about we had a guest I haven't quite gotten on the same page as far as when we can get him on. I'm really pumped about it. So it kind of happened at the right moment that I saw this, and it's like, yeah, let's talk about this.
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't bad. It wasn't as bad as I had anticipated after I started. Um,
I did that first 2 minutes. I'm like, I don't know that I can do this, Liz. Like, if it keeps this shit up, then I'm gonna be throwing shit and breaking shit.
yeah. It was interesting, but it's definitely worth a watch. Definitely worth a watch.
So, all right, folks. Well, thanks for hanging out with us again, and we'll see you next week.
Yes, I'm fairly certain we'll have a guest next week. I do believe. I do believe.
Nice. Yeah, check us out at freemarketscreenearth.com if you want the show notes or links to everything, and yeah, you'll have a good one. Take care of Earth.
Make babies.